His name is Rashad Al-Haddad. He's not even a part of the Houthi family.
There's 2/3 of Yemen called al-Houthi. Oh god, he's such an Orientalist. He doesn't think Arabs are real. They're just this kind of concept that he fantasizes around.
Very good. Let's watch this.
You condemn the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, Ethan?
You gotta stop.
But the people in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising literally were fighting with SS officers and German police who were trying to shove them on a train to gas them.
What?
Do you think he's like Anne Frank?
Uh-oh.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
He's kidnapping civilians. What, Anne Frank? What, the pacifist? It would be like if Anne Frank overthrew the government of a Jewish country and started stealing aid from other Jews and started trafficking Jewish civilians and started forcibly conscripting refugees who were passing through this Jewish country. Like that's where you get the Anne Frank comparison.
You said that the Houthi Luffy was not a pirate.
He's not.
Or I'm sorry, not Houthi affiliated.
He's not, but even if he was, I wouldn't care. I hope you understand that.
Because that's rewriting history.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this very clearly.
No, it's not that you cared. It's that
I'm gonna
you
say this
fucking
very clearly
glazed
to
him
you
up.
right now. 10 toes down. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
I believe what the Houthis are doing in terms of stopping Israel doing a genocide
Excuse me, what are they doing to stop Israel's genocide again? They're doing all. That's what they're doing. They're kidnapping Filipino sailors and blowing up random ships because they think they might have some connection to Israel. Just so you know, unless Houthis have really good intel, which they apparently don't, you can't just go onto a website and be like, oh, this ship is like flagged at like Israel or the whatever, United Kingdom, Germany, US, or whatever other country we hold equally accountable. Because ships change ownership all the time. They changed flagging, they changed their like registration country, they change this constantly, which is why sometimes they've attacked these ships because they thought one was British, but actually it had changed like 5 months earlier. So they're just indiscriminately attacking ships. That's what they're doing. And just hoping they get lucky.
to implement a blockade on the Red Sea is a good thing. 10 toes down. They are on the morally right side. Don't you also think they're on the morally right side?
What have they done?
You're supposed to.
Hold on.
You're saying that it's a genocide.
What have they done?
What the fuck are they supposed to do?
They hijacked a boat that had nothing to do with Israel. Like, bravo.
That's not true. That's not true.
Really? What was that? What did it have to do with Israel?
It was
one of the co-owners was Israeli, even though the company was British. How does that even work? Like one Israeli taxpayer is going to kidnap a bunch of Filipinos to hurt one Israeli taxpayer.
Literally owned by an Israeli.
It was partially owned.
Is
a big multi-conglomerate company that was partially owned by an Israeli.
Yes.
It was bound for
This is unbelievable that he's still defending this. This is so dense. Oh God.
For Turkey from
matter.
India.
What do you mean?
They kidnapped five totally unrelated Filipino prisoners and kept them prisoners for a year.
In your video, are you going to take that back too now? Now you admit that you were wrong on that
Take
part
what
too?
back? I didn't hear you.
What are we on? 4? 5? How many points have you actually backtracked
I don't know
on
I don't know what you're accusing me of. What was I wrong about?
You said in your video that it had nothing to do with Israel. You claimed that it wasn't owned by an
partially
Israeli
owned by an Israeli guy.
You were wrong.
Hey, it's not. What does Hasan think a conglomerate is? Sorry, hang on. Again, you need to know what you're looking for when it comes to ships, okay? Because I barely remember. It's operated by a Japanese shipping line. It was going from Turkey to India. Okay, so there's quite a few countries that have like an interest in this ship. Owned by Galaxy Maritime Limited, which is registered in the Isle of Man, which is owned by Ray Car Carriers, which is co-owned by Abraham Ungar. So really, just because Ray Car Carriers is co-owned by this one guy, co-owned is fine, right? No, you moron. Satnav, if you're if I work in a shop in Lincolnshire that's co-owned by an Israeli, I would probably not appreciate it if the Houthis kidnapped me in order to stop a genocide. No, that's not really that helpful. And it's no wonder that the Houthis have achieved absolutely nothing for Gaza. Sorry. It's like literally doing the one drop rule to a ship. It's so stupid. Oh, God.
Partially owned by an Israeli guy? It's British owned. It's owned by a British company.
It is an Israeli
It's
conglomerate
owned by a
that owns
British
the
company.
fucking ship.
So it's owned by a British
company. You literally
company.
claimed that it was owned by Isle of Man. It was an Isle of Man ship.
It is.
Like you think all of these ships mysteriously are just owned by that, and it's not a easy flat.
Isn't the Raycar Carriers is an Isle of Man company? Also, they're just leasing out the ship. They're just leasing out the ship. Like they're not the one. Like, do you know how many parties are involved when it comes to like a ship moving cargo from? It's the companies that put stuff onto the ship. It's the country that takes the ship from one country to the other. Neither of which was Israel. Holy. Oh my God. We gotta go on Lloyd's list. Me. Wait, why is it only giving me half of this thing? Why won't you load? Hang on.
How much should this so if this Jewish or this Israeli guy is
0.5.
If this Israeli guy, how much does he need to own of this business that owns this boat to justify? Is it 0.1? Is it 0.2? Is it 5%? How much?
I don't know, and I don't care because I think that even if they got some of the ships wrong, I still think they're on the right side.
Oh.
Don't you?
I mean, like, I agree with their.
I'm not even
you can look through the whole list of Houthi shit. Lots of them are wrong. Like, most of them are wrong. Actually, I think the Galaxy Leader might be the closest one. This actually might have been the more accurate one. Because if the ship is registered at the Isle of Man, the company itself is it here? Yeah. Oh, this is the full thing. Okay. The company itself, Ray Shipping, is based in Tel Aviv. So, but then if it's at the Isle of Man, are we just talking about the fact that these two business owners are Israeli taxpayers? That's what we're talking about here. And they would have lost a bit of income, potentially, if they didn't just shift the cost onto consumers in a different country. Like, do we even know if this guy got his bank hit by this? Because Bahamas flagged. Ray Shipping is Tel Aviv based. The ship is registered, though, at Isle of Man. And this is his reason to kidnap the crew who are Filipino. Okay, fascinating. I'd be so curious to see like how much damage, because this is like over a dozen people. Yeah, there's like over a dozen people taken hostage for over a year. And I wonder how much damage this would have done to, how much damage this would have actually done to Israel. God.
Cheating on that front, by the way, because I do think that, once again, that was owned by an Israeli conglomerate.
No, it wasn't. That's an outright lie. You're lying. It's not owned by an Israeli conglomerate. You're lying. That's an outright pathetic lie. And you're basically running defense for a terrorist organization. Now, do I defend?
It was flagged at the Bahamas, although flagging doesn't really mean all that much, I think. But if the company was based in Tel Aviv, but the ship was based in Isle of Man, that would mean that how much money is the Israeli government getting from this ship's activity? Doesn't make any sense.
And what they do, I think what they're doing, their message is good.
What do you do here?
Israeli conglomerate, you're lying. That's an outright pathetic lie.
I think Ethan's wrong there. I think it would be, you would say it's owned by the Israeli company. But whether or not the, like even stopping that ship and even assuming that they didn't take hostages, how much that would actually affect the Israeli government is pretty, it's pretty low given the risk that you take of making the wrong decision, because these ships change flag and ownership all the time.
And you're basically running defense for a terrorist organization. Now, do I defend what they do? I think what they're doing, their message is good. Their method is terrible.
Oh, wait.
Like, again, the Houthi message is about getting Israel out of Gaza so that Hamas can rebuild and try and attack them again later. That's it. It's just all the Houthis want to achieve is for Hamas to have the breathing space to regroup. They want the war to end before Hamas can be destroyed. It's about helping Hamas. It's not about helping, like, achieve a two-state solution or a one-state solution with equal rights. It's not about any of that, right? It's just about giving Hamas some breathing space so that they can try again later, and same with the rest of the Axis. So Ethan is giving, like, their message is as well.
Dude, let's ring up the al-Houthi family real quick. Tell us how you would stop a genocide when you're the poorest country.
Well, not hijacking
the Houthis could probably stop like a lot of suffering by not buying helicopters to go and hijack ships and kidnap Filipinos and take care of their own people who have been going through a famine, instead of kidnapping aid workers and making the situation so dangerous that humanitarian aid workers don't even want to go into the territory. I don't know, maybe the Houthis would think about the things that you can affect change on. Can the Houthis substantially defeat the IDF or the Americans? No. Could they act in a way that would help the people in Yemen who are suffering much more than they are being helped right now? Yeah. Or do we not care about them, Hasan? We only care about helping Hamas in Gaza.
Unaffiliated boat and kidnapping 15 nationals and holding them for a year. How is that helping anyone?
Yeah, that's another thing that you actually got wrong, by the way, that even Willie Sloptube called you out on. Those people, by the time you had released your context puke, those people had been released.
It was, I remember.
They were released within a few days of the video, before the video went out? Maybe a week? Come on, Hasan. What a slop argument. Oh, they were released. They were released to what? So 1 week before the video goes out, which probably would suggest that the script has been written and it's been filmed and edited. So what? Oh no, you got it wrong by what? A week. It was a year and 2 months, not a year and 3 weeks. Me. Debate bro, man. The kind of person who gets excited about a point like that is a debate bro. That's a debate bro slop tube moron.
I said they were prisoners for a year. I know they were released. It literally happened the day I was finishing the video.
You couldn't.
They were held. Were they held
You
prisoners?
couldn't stop the video and then just edit it to change that one thing, because that would make such a massive difference. What, the fact that they were kept hostage for something they didn't do as civilians for over a year? Jesus.
Were they held prisoner for a year? Were they held prisoner for a year? Were they held prisoner for a year?
Yeah, they were.
That's what I said. Thank you.
Yeah, they were all hostages.
So how's that help Israel, taking a bunch of Filipino unaffiliated sailors hostage for a year?
Do you understand the concept of deterrence?
Well, how's it deter Israel? Kidnapping.
Do you understand the concept of deterrence?
Yeah, I understand that they basically caused all of world shipping, or at least 3/4 of it, to go all the way around Africa instead, and then shift those costs of extra time and fuel over to the consumers, some of whom live in third world countries, by the way, Hasan. Deterrence. Okay, General. Jesus Christ.
Yes,
how is that a deterrence?
It is a show of force to stop successfully, mind you, to stop other commercial shipping from going through. They literally bankrupted an entire Israeli port. I'd say that's numbers on the board, baby. And
why? Why is bankrupting the port of Eilat supposed to stop a war in Gaza? What? How, General Piker? God, no wonder the Soviet Union collapsed, because these are the kind of who would be in charge, isn't it? God. What, the IDF in Gaza, hostages are still there, Hamas not surrendering, tunnels, booby traps everywhere, and they're like, oh no, we gotta withdraw, Steve. Quick, Doron, get out. The port of Eilat's bankrupted. By the way, where do people in the West Bank get a lot of their goods from? Oh yeah, they come from Israel and they go into the West Bank. Oh yeah. Uh-oh. Oh no. A show of force. Meanwhile, the Houthis are just sitting there like, yes, we fired 20 drones at the American ships. And America's like, yeah, we intercepted all of them. Sorry. Show of force. Bro, the Houthis could feed their own people. They need to take care of their own people. They could actually do that and achieve something, rather than bankrupt the port of Eilat. I'm sure the Gazans are sitting there like, yay, port of Eilat's bankrupt. Ooh.
Like I said, 10 toes down, support that initiative. Because if you believe it's a genocide, what the are they supposed to do? Should they allow their coastline to continue having commerce as though nothing is going on?
Actually, yes. I don't like what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. That doesn't mean I get to just go into the North Sea and kidnap a bunch of Norwegian sailors. Sorry, because there's a Russian making money off of one of the ships. What the? No, there are better things that you can do. Sorry, it's international water. Yes, it affects. You're literally hurting poor people all around the world by increasing costs of goods, which did happen, by the way. Meanwhile, people in Yemen under Houthi rule are getting imprisoned for arbitrary crimes, or there are women who are getting kidnapped and taken and imprisoned for impropriety, and then they end up getting trafficked by Houthi leadership. That is real, by the way. That's attested to by victims, by Yemeni, by lawyers, by international NGOs. Yeah, that's all true, that they actually have trafficked and thrown into slavery women who they thought were dressed inappropriately. Yes, that has happened with the Houthis. They also kidnap migrants from Ethiopia who are trying to get to Saudi Arabia, and they conscript them and force them to go to the front lines. And they take child soldiers, people who are not even like teenagers, but like 14, 13, 12 and lower, and send them into the front lines. They put them in the military frequently, and they put their pictures up all over Sana'a. Yeah, the Houthis could probably deal with that rather than kidnapping Filipinos. You know, life gives you a hand, life gives you some resources. You figure out what the best you can do with them. I know it's less entertaining for this frat boy general, but it's probably better for like maximizing the well-being of Arabs as much as you can in the region. Yeah, maybe release some of the UN aid workers that they've kidnapped.
Up there in Palestine, where Israel is doing a genocide in Palestine, how do you think the Yemeni population should have responded to the Israeli genocide? Should they have sat back and just
Yemeni
let it
is
happen?
not Houthi, by the way.
And also, they can't say, obviously, they can't say from the river to the sea, Palestine, because that scares you, Ethan. So obviously, they can't do that either. So
it doesn't. It's what Norman Finkelstein
said. How can people be pro-Palestine in a way that you think is appropriate?
Where your example is hijacking an unaffiliated shipping?
Why is Hasan acting as if like Palestine is the only Arab group that needs help? It's so stupid.
And kidnapping 15 sailors?
Not unaffiliated. It's not unaffiliated. But even if it was unaffiliated, as I've said already,
you'd have still supported
it. Was unaffiliated.
Again, most of the ships were unaffiliated, by the way, because Houthi intel, not great, and ships change ownership quite a lot.
That wasn't unaffiliated. You lied about that, and you recognize that you lied about that for the record. Okay. But if it was,
people can look into it.
It wasn't. Even if it.
Why did they didn't need to kidnap random people. That's like terrorist. Why are they kidnapping random unaffiliated sailors? How are you defending
Ethan,
that?
You know what's
you're defending them kidnapping these unrelated foreign sailors?
You know what's Israel blowing up a humanitarian aid
When did I defend that?
Pivot. Oh God, he's got Hasan in his head. Thank God that flotilla got struck. Yeah, thank God that flotilla got attacked and no one got injured or died or anything. Thank God that happened, so I can hold up that flotilla to please I can hold up that flotilla, because now I can divert from the fact that the Houthis kidnapped a bunch of civilians for no reason.
1,002. No, I'm not saying you're defending that. I'm just explaining to you what actual terrorism looks like.
Well, you are defending
Israel,
terrorism,
as
though.
of this conversation taking
and you've done
place,
it many
Israel
times during this conversation.
Literally drone striked a humanitarian aid ship that was headed for Gaza off the coastline of Malta. That's real terrorism. What the Houthis are doing, on the other hand, is resistance.
Wait, why is that? So this is terrorism, but the Houthis literally bombed ships that had nothing to do with Israel. So what? They literally did the same thing that you're screeching about, Hasan. If we're going to say, oh, well, they released the hostages after a year, well, I don't think anyone on this boat fucking died or got hurt. So I guess this is like the same as what the Houthis do, but why are you so upset about this, but not about what the Houthis did to unaffiliated ships?
And it's not only moral, but it's just...
Very good.
It's so just knuckle dragging shit for brains fucking logic. Oh, God.
Right, you're so righteous.
If justice is served,
do you think that the Filipino hostages who were held there for a year agree that was an awesome... that was an awesome act of resistance?
Not.
Probably not. Right?
Probably not. Can you explain to me what you would do?
But it's a sacrifice we're willing to make.
What would you do?
I think...
Ethan, don't concede this. I think he will, because he said that thing earlier about the message, but...
Well, first of all, I think that there's something to be said for stopping the cargo in that strait, but they're doing it insanely...
No, there's not. Why? What the fuck? Do you know how many countries use the Red Sea? It's international waters.
Fucking stupid. They're stopping unaffiliated ships and they're kidnapping unaffiliated people. How is that good? They're doing it bad.
It's not an unaffiliated ship, by the way. But even then,
you won't explain how it's affiliated. You said it's owned by an Israeli conglomerate. That is an outright lie. Hold on, you're doing disinformation right now. It was not owned by an Israeli conglomerate. You said that. Yes, it was a lie.
Are they going to look this up?
Galaxy Leader is a vehicle carrier that was owned by a British company, operated by a company connected. It was connected. It wasn't even. He didn't even own it. It was connected to an Israeli businessman. It was it was co-owned by a business that this Israeli guy was involved.
Is that why have I got something different here? Is this because these ships change ownership all the time? Is that why? the registered owner of the ship is Galaxy Maritime, which is registered in the Isle of Man. But they're talking about ultimate ownership, which is Raycar Carriers. But Raycar Carriers... Oh, God. Okay. If anyone works in maritime, I might need help. If it works the same way as other like corporations, then Raycar Carriers, which owns Galaxy Maritime would be the one that owns the ship then. And they're Isle of Man. So yeah, really, it's just the money. It's just the tax. It's the connection here to Israel is the fact that this businessman, Abraham Ungar, is an Israeli taxpayer. That's it. And we don't even know we need sea bugs.
Involved in.
Yeah, co-owned by Abraham Ungar.
So what? You know his name.
What do you mean? It's co-owned by an Israeli. What are we talking about?
No, it's co-owned by a company that has an Israeli dude affiliated with it.
Well, you asked me how it's
It's
connected.
owned by a British company.
You asked me how it's connected. I'm telling you how it's connected.
Well, you're lying.
And now you don't like that connection.
No, you're lying. That's what I don't like.
What do you? I'm not lying. The ship info is readily available, Ethan.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter anyway. The problem for me, really, it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Well,
okay,
so
that's
the
point number 5 that you also.
It should be that it doesn't matter. Like even if it was co-owned, like, even if like it's an Israeli ship going to Israel, you don't get to attack random fucking civilian sailors because you don't like the outcome of a war that's happening between Israel and Gaza, especially if you're a non-state actor. It's not your responsibility, especially when you are overseeing a civilian population that's suffering in large part because of your actions.
Presented falsely your context puke.
The problem is more the kidnapped sailors. I just don't understand you can justify kidnapping a bunch of unaffiliated sailors.
I don't, Ethan.
You are. You go.
Ethan,
have you ever heard of deterrent?
Yeah, walk with me through this carefully.
Yeah, please explain to me how it's justifiable to kidnap 15
sailors. What would
sailors.
you do? Ethan, what would you do? You have a better way to do it, I think. We're going to figure it out.
Well, like I said, you can do it without kidnapping unaffiliated, holding them for a year.
There were militancy, resistance, okay, that cut off supply lines, okay? Supply lines for the Nazis or even...
Nazi supply lines. Nazi supply lines. This is them, like, destroying fucking train tracks. By the way, the trains that are being used to either ship weapons or, worse, to ship Jews to fucking gas chambers. This was a ship that was going from Turkey to India to bring goods from however many countries that were in Turkey to send those goods towards India.
Sometimes supply lines that actually impacted the civilians, okay? Impact the civilians. Do you feel like that kind of resistance was unwarranted?
It's completely irrelevant. Why did they hold them for a year?
I don't know.
Okay, because they're terrorists.
It's a deterrent.
Because they're terrorists.
Yeah, they're terrorists. They kidnap innocent civilians.
Are they? So
the Filipino guys
the people that are resisting against the Israeli genocide that you call a genocide are actually terrorists because you don't agree with
kidnapping
their
innocents
fucking methods. But you have no way.
Kidnapping innocents.
No alternative. You have no alternative.
That's not true. I say just don't kidnap innocent people.
Around. Nothing else.
It's easy. Just don't kidnap innocent people. They could have done that, right? They could have taken the boat. They could have commandeered the boat and not kidnapped people, right? Oh, is that possible?
Okay,
why is he laughing at
that? Do you think that warrants the standard of saying that one of the only groups that is doing militancy against and resisting against Israel's genocide, which they stopped, by the way. They literally stopped when Israel actually followed through on a ceasefire. If they were just, erroneously and randomly fucking trying to claim ships because they're pirates, they want to live the pirate life, then obviously they wouldn't have stopped doing that, don't you think? And they only started their blockade after Israel started starving Gaza again. And then
that's
also
great.
Turned
what does
around.
that have to do with innocent sailors?
Ethan, I don't think you want to go down this route.
Why is again? There's no critical thought. Why does Hasan just think like any military action is okay? Like why? He's just acting like because as long as you say it's against the genocide, even though it's not doing anything to stop the actions that you claim they're stopping, we still have to defend it. Why? Why?
Hey, what do you mean?
Innocent people is terrorism. Is Israel terrorist? Is the IDF terrorist?
I mean, you could characterize it that way.
Is the IDF terrorist?
I mean, it's an army, so it's a different thing. It's like
why is it a different thing? You think
because terrorists are non-state actors, but okay.
The Houthis movement doesn't have a standing army? They have an army.
The Houthis are to like a hostile takeover of like a portion of Yemen. They're at odds with the government. It's different. They also own slaves, by the way.
We're going to talk about the Ansar Allah movement's history.
But I'll say yeah, Israel. The IDF is terrorist. Yes, the IDF is terrorism.
Hold on. Talk to me about how the Ansar Allah movement actually came to power without getting any notes from your Discord or anything like that. Explain to me the process in which Ansar Allah actually came to power.
I don't know.
What?
I do not know.
Oh, you don't know?
Yeah, you should try saying that sometimes.
Because in your video, you also used a lot of Saudi outlets to be like, these guys are actually doing slavery.
Give me one.
And it turned out that actually,
give me the Saudi outlets.
The videos that you used did not even suggest that it was Ansar Allah that was doing slavery in the fucking poorest country on the planet. Okay?
The Houthis have slaves. That's not even contested.
They weren't the ones that were doing the slavery according to your own fucking video, but you still used it.
The Houthis have slaves.
Is Hasan just like, okay, hang on. Let's see. Maybe he doesn't like Saudi reports. I don't know if like Yemeni NGOs, I don't know if they matter, like human rights organizations. There are entire documents about the Houthis engaging in practices that Hasan would easily consider slavery. Remember, bear in mind, Hasan thinks the American prison system is slavery, right? Because 13th Amendment or whatever the fuck. Look, is this it? According to information gathered by Muwatana, the Ansar Allah Houthi group forcibly recruits African migrants and deploys them to the front lines of the conflict, exploiting their financial desperation. They promise to pay them, which often does not happen, or threaten them during their detention in Sada Governorate. So, forcibly conscripting refugees who are trying to flee to Saudi Arabia and sending them to the front lines, is that not a form of slavery? Like war slaves? Is that fake? Are survivors and like Yemeni fucking lawyers and human rights organizations lying when they talk about women who get kidnapped and then fucking trafficked forcibly, sex trafficked amongst Houthi leaders? According to the Geneva-based SAM Organization for Rights and Liberties, Al-Hamadi, this was a Yemeni Ethiopian model, I think she was, told the visiting delegation that the Houthi security officials passed her and other girls between several homes, forced them to drink alcohol and sleep with the people. When she confronted the Houthis with these accusations of prostitution, they responded, "It's okay as long as it's for the service of the homeland." It's kind of like sex slavery, isn't it? These are the guys Hasan supports and thinks they have good intentions to stop genocide. Okay, dude. They also support Assad. They're aligned with Assad because they're part of the Axis. Okay.
Propaganda papers that at a time when Saudi Arabia was doing a fucking genocide.
Wait, is Hasan not going to tell us how the Houthis came to power? Because they teamed up with the deposed president. That's what they did. The president who was deposed in the Arab Spring teamed up with the Houthis and launched a coup in Sana'a.
Slaves and kidnapping innocents. It's just so unnecessary.
What are you talking about?
Just acknowledge
dude?
that they do terrible shit.
The Saudi-backed government was the one that was actually doing slavery.
No, well, if they did, then the Houthis also have slaves. That's just a statement of fact.
No, the Houthis don't have shit. Okay, it's
they don't have shit. They don't have slaves. They don't even have slaves. They don't even have food. Like, what are you talking about?
That's not the point I'm making. They are the poorest country on the planet that just came out of a
and how's that blockade, by the way, helping the country?
Saudi Arabia.
How is the blockade helping the famine in Yemen? How's the blockade?
By the way, just nitpicking, but the poorest country in the world would be like South Sudan or like Congo or some shit. It wouldn't be fucking Yemen, but okay. Yemen is very poor though.
Helping the famine in Yemen.
There is, as far as I understand, there's no longer a famine in Yemen. I'm talking about before, because you talked about how you were a regional expert.
What is blockading doing for the poorest country on earth?
Ansar Allah and their violent takeover of Yemen. So I was like trying to figure out what you know about this. Maybe you know something that I don't know. So I was trying to pick your brain a little bit.
So explain to me why it matters.
This is why Hasan has only learned about this recently, you can tell, and he's like really excited to talk about how the Houthis took over, and he's going to spin some fucking stupid narrative about how their takeover of Yemen was totally justified, actually.
It's like you don't know shit.
Sure, I don't know about this specific thing. Tell me why it matters.
Why it matters? What their blockade?
Yeah, educate him, Hasan. That's your job. Come on.
Clearly,
their blockade is. Their blockade is awesome.
Why it matters how they came to power.
Oh, because you used Saudi newspapers in the time when Saudi Arabia, according to Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all fucking NGOs, was doing a Western-backed blockade that was killing hundreds of thousands of people.
And the Houthis exacerbated it by stealing aid and kidnapping aid workers and making it so dangerous within their own territory that aid workers didn't want to go there anymore. By the way,
the headlines that you used in your context cube were from Al Arabiya and numerous other outlets that had their own personal investment in vilifying the Ansar Allah movement. Having said that, of course, I also think that there are plenty to criticize about the Ansar Allah movement. I don't agree with everything that they're fucking doing, as I've said time and time again, like their banner, right? Their banner says "First to Jews," which you also presented in your video, except. Remember when you talked about Norm Finkelstein and how Norm Finkelstein doesn't agree with "From the River to the Sea"?
You agree with kidnapping civilians?
Can we play the clip of Norm Finkelstein talking about the curse the Jews and how what he thinks about that? Let's do that. Let's pull up the clip of Norm Finkelstein's thoughts.
How is that relevant?
These actions and the blockade against these. You used him as a primary source earlier because you thought,
he's not. Norman Finkelstein is not going to say that Houthis only hate Jews because they're so angered by Israel's actions. That would be if Norman Finkelstein says that, that's because he's never read what the Houthis actually put out. But okay, we'll see.
A reputable guy, which I think
he said something that I've said that I've been criticized for. What does that have to do with every other take he's taken? It doesn't mean that I support that. Like we're aligned with every other take in the world.
Dan, can you play this clip real quick? Sorry, this is 50 seconds.
It's irrelevant.
I passed it along.
It's totally irrelevant.
What do you mean it's irrelevant?
Because who gives a fuck what he said about it?
Wait, what do you mean?
You want to talk about?
Here, listen. You use his perspective on "From the River to the Sea" to imply that he agrees with you.
He does.
I want to see if you agree with him on this. Just play it.
All right, I'll play it.
Thank you.
So here, I'm going to play it, okay? And then when this is done, let's move on to something I know we both want to talk about. You claimed, I'm going to play it. I just want to set this up. You claimed that the worst thing I said in the context, puke, is that I wrongfully portrayed Jewish people fleeing from their countries.
Wait, Hasan didn't tell us. Hasan's not telling us how the Houthis came to power. Why? Why not? Okay.
And I denied the Nakba somehow, which is crazy. So let's talk about that after this clip.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
And by the way, you're not going to scare us. You're not going to.
I'll just say up front, we can end on that point. Oh,
I can keep going all day
sure
if you want to.
Yeah, I know.
No one sent the squirrel tweet.
I know you go to bed tonight in a cool race car bed, but I have family.
Okay,
kids.
No, that's fine.
Grumble.
Why are you thinking about what my bedroom looks like? It's kind of weird, man.
Yeah. No, you're right. You fucking badass fucking sports car bed. It's a meme.
Very odd.
Here it is.
As long as the people in Gaza are subjected to a genocide, we won't stop. Do you know all the praise that's given to the Danish government because it helped evacuate Jews during World War II? But is there a case where a totally distant people did that for the people of Gaza? If I were to give a Nobel Peace Prize, I would divide it between three. South African delegation.
Such a
Number
fucking
two,
psycho, man.
those doctors who volunteered to go to Gaza. The Doctors Without Borders and others.
Okay, agree.
One doctor, he was Palestinian. Why don't you leave? Because he had the option. He was able to go. He said, I didn't go to medical school for 30 years to abandon my people. He was killed. And the third, it's the Houthis. If genocide is
a Nobel Peace Prize for people who do actually kidnap and make sex slaves or fucking war slaves out of their own people or out of Ethiopian migrants. The Houthis, who prioritize dumb fuck useless attacks on Israel and on the Red Sea that don't achieve anything for Gazans and just divert resources away from their own people, who are still actually suffering from hunger and malnutrition, by the way. The Houthis who kidnap aid workers and make the place so dangerous for aid workers that no one wants to go and deliver aid to people who need it desperately and we're dying of famine. Yeah, those guys. Nobel Peace Prize. Because they stole a ship. Okay. Because they bankrupted a port. Wow. They bankrupted a port, guys. Woo. Get them.
The crime of crimes. The Houthis are the hero of heroes.
Yeah, I mean, the first two examples, I definitely agree. I think it's psychotic to give the Houthis a peace prize. That's
why of just ignoring context like Hasan does.
Hey, thanks for the €10, Patty P. Really appreciate that. Oh.
Why?
Because what the fuck have they done for peace other than kidnap innocent civilians? What have they done for their own populace? This is, as you said, the poorest country on earth.
Port. That is
what
a
are they doing
direct
for
material.
peace?
The Houthis have.
What does this have to do with the river to the sea?
Material consequences for Israel as it has implemented a genocide.
All right, let's give them a peace prize. Whatever, I don't care. Let's give them a peace prize.
I think they deserve it.
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, they deserve a peace prize if your first principle is hurting Israel. That's it. But it's not even your first principle, but your only one. Your only principle. If you want to help Gazans, well, fuck, what did they do to help Gaza? Nothing. What did they do to help their own people? Nothing. The Houthis have kept the last Yemeni Jew in prison since 2016. Didn't know that. Okay, I'll look it up. I don't believe you. Or I just wouldn't verify without chat.
Wait, also,
don't ask the unaffiliated prisoners who were held for a year, though, if they do.
No, I don't. I think you're missing the broader point here. You're missing the forest of the trees.
Right, of
Here,
course.
I'll give you a great example of this, by the way, because you spent a lot of time being like, the Houthis are bad. They're homophobic. I'm like, I'm sure they are. Holy
I'm sure
shit.
they are.
Also, Dan, it keeps switching back to me on my end. Sorry.
Let's talk about the issue of the Nakba and stuff.
Okay. Hold on. I know you keep saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter. This is boring." Whenever you come across a
it's
point
irrelevant,
that you have to admit
and
is
you
wrong.
just talk
but
and
listen,
talk and talk. It makes the video unwatchable.
The Houthis. You said the Houthis are barbaric. They're homophobic. They hate women. All this shit, right?
Broadly speaking, what do you think about the phrase "the ends justify the means"? No, I don't like that. No. I think you should probably think about moral means to achieve moral ends. Yeah. The thing is with military action, and Hasan will never think about this because he's a LARPer, fucking uncritical, low IQ, whatever. But the fact is that when you're taking military action, you have to think, what is the end and what are the means? And are the means moral? Is the end moral? How will the means achieve the end? For the Houthis, they don't seem to pass anything. So the means are engaging in a practice that will hurt civilians primarily. Either people who depend on goods that are shipped through the Red Sea to be a certain price, like people in the third world who don't want to see their prices go up. The companies, obviously, well, Hasan doesn't care about that. The civilians who are in the ships, who have to have their entire fucking, who are either going to get taken hostage or at risk of dying or like sinking in the sea or being kidnapped. It affects the people in Yemen because they're Houthis who are kind of like governing 2/3 of the people should probably be helping them, right? And they're not getting help because they're getting much needed resources diverted away from them. So the means are shit. They're useless. Well, all the ends are what? Bankrupt the port of Eilat. To do what? To stop the war in Gaza. But that's not really, it's not to stop the war, first of all. It's just to get a ceasefire. It's just to get a ceasefire that's long enough for Hamas to regroup and try again. It's not to end the conflict. It's just to buy Hamas some time. Could be 5 years, 10 years, but it's just to buy time. So that's it. The end isn't even that justified either. You can't just unilaterally tell the IDF to cease fire regardless of what Hamas are doing. Hamas are one party of the conflict. If there's going to be a long-lasting ceasefire, there needs to be an agreement. Like unilateral withdrawal is not a good idea. Doesn't work. So the Houthis don't really cross any threshold. They don't really meet any of the tests. They don't meet moral means. They don't meet a moral end. Shit.
Right? And I'm sure a lot of that is correct. Of course it is. It is the fucking poorest nation on the planet. And all it is known is fucking death and destruction. This doesn't justify having that sort of opinion, of course, but it certainly understands, don't you think? Certainly is part of the point, part of the problem.
Again, if you he's so naive. Hasan thinks that Houthis are mad at Jews just because they because of the suffering that they see Israel committing against Palestinians. If that's true, if it is all just born out of empathy for the suffering of Arabs, why do the Houthis support Assad? Why do they treat their own population, which is Arab, by the way? Why do they treat their own population the way that they do? Like horribly.
And the best possible way
they hate Jews because they're anti-Semitic. And they'll tell you that. If you read the al-Houthi sermons, which are still distributed amongst the Yemeni population under Houthi rule, their justifications for hating Jews is not rooted in politics, is rooted in religion. Where did this correct vision? This is them talking about how Israel wants to conquer everything from the Nile to the Euphrates, protocols bullshit, cancerous gland. But it's true because of the Holy Quran. That's why they say, or at least the Ayatollah's understanding of the Quran. It's because of religious fundamentalism. That's like the root of their opinion. And they'll tell you that about Christians as well. They hate Christians as much as they hate Jews in a lot of ways. Yemeni Christians got fucked up by the Houthis as well. And Baha'is and whatever else.
Probably get them to have a civil rights movement to give gays rights would probably be to stop fucking bombing them as Joe Biden did and as Donald Trump has done.
Hey, they're only homophobic because they're getting bombed. Woohoo. Apart from all the countries that don't get bombed that are still homophobic, even wealthy ones. Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't my chief criticism. Man, again, my criticism is that they are kidnapping civilians.
Yeah, I know. You don't like their methods, but you have no alternative method.
I said just do it without kidnapping civilians, dude. It's not rocket science.
Let's get back to the IDF. You said the IDF.
That's a pretty cuck position, but okay, whatever.
IDF is maybe not a terror organization, but the IDF is a terror organization.
I didn't say that. Wrong.
Through and through.
Wrong. Again, a liar.
Okay, so you think the IDF is a terror organization?
I said yes.
You believe the IDF
I think it's fair to characterize them that way.
Okay. Your wife was in the IDF.
Yeah.
Do you believe your wife is a terrorist?
Of course not.
You have considered a 19-year-old Yemeni TikToker who is not even a part of the al-Houthi family with no Houthi
al-Houthi family. What the fuck? Okay, brilliant.
A person that says he stands with the Houthis, and I do too, a terrorist over and over again because he has a gun in the second highest gun ownership density per capita.
He's in like full fucking military gear. I don't know what. Okay.
And because he responded to a fucking Instagram.
And because he said he's a soldier.
Comment saying he's a soldier. A dude who doesn't even speak English.
Let's watch this.
It's translated from Arabic, bro. I don't what? Okay.
Claiming that he was a terrorist over and over again.
He is.
His name is Rashad Al-Haddad. He is not even a fucking Zaidi Shia. He's not even a part of the Houthi family.
Let's watch the evidence.
How naive to think that Houthis govern 2/3 of the Yemeni population. What the fuck? Okay. He's not part of the Houthi family. Is 2/3 of Yemen called al-Houthi? Fucking loser. He's such an Orientalist. He doesn't think Arabs are real. But they're just this kind of concept that he fantasizes around. God.
His last name would be al-Houthi, not al-Haddad. Okay?
Let's watch the evidence.
This person you have,
He's not even made.
You looked at a 19-year-old fucking teenager who's a TikToker.
Terrorist.
In the poorest country on the planet who's only known death and destruction and spent countless fucking hours looking through whatever his social media was to be like, this guy is bad.
Let's look at it.
Yeah, of course he's fucked up. He lives in goddamn Yemen.
Do you know what the bigotry of low expectations is?
Bel-Air like you, dumbass.
Do you know what the bigotry of low expectations?
Even if that's all true, Hasan, you glaze him. You uncritically support everything he says and does. But now you're saying he's fucked up. Okay.
Expectations is? You're saying because he's poor, he hates Jewish people? Let's watch. Ready?
No,
let me show you.
It's not because he's poor that he hates Jewish people. It's because he lives in fucking Yemen. And in that part of the world, the only thing that people see is the dangerous conflation.
Why doesn't he hate Saudis, Hasan? He went to Saudi. Why doesn't he not hate Why doesn't he hate Saudis? If it's about material conditions, he would be wanting to impale fucking Saudis on spikes. Okay.
Of Zionism and Judaism.
I'm sure the Yemenis.
The fighter jets that blow up their fucking schools have a Star of David next to them. And when the Palestinians...
Yeah, sorry, I thought the Houthis fought with Saudi and with other Yemenis. The Houthis fight with the Emirates, they fight with the Yemeni government, and they fight with Saudi. That's who they've been fighting with. They do not fight with Israel all that much. But that's Arabs fighting Arabs. We don't care about that, you know? That's Ottoman colonizer dividing and conquering.
Are kidnapped when they're fucking forced to go through military trial detention. They get fucking Stars of David carved on their heads. Israel is the one that dangerously and falsely claims to be the nation state of Jews. Israel is the one that makes everybody think that this action, all of the action, the genocide that you called a genocide is actually being done at the behest of Jews.
That's not true.
Of course, for everyone
Israel
in that
doesn't
side
claim
of the
they're
fucking
doing
world,
it on
when
behest
they
of
say
Jews.
Jew, it's interchangeable with Israel. Many of these people,
Do
including
you think he's like Anne Frank?
What?
Do you think he's like Anne Frank?
Uh-oh.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Did
he
Anne-
has withstood
did Anne-
genocide. He has withstood genocide by the Saudi
that the
government.
only-
Of course I do. I think that talking to, but my
Anne
point that I
Frank.
was fucking presenting, my point that I was
Anne
fucking
Frank
presenting.
is famous for being a pacifist and seeing the good in people despite a fucking Holocaust that took every member of her family but her dad. That's why she's inspiring. This guy went on Twitter and said, fuck Jewish
would you think
people.
Anne Frank would be less inspiring if she somehow was able to get out?
If she was like, I want to kill Germans and hang them, yeah.
And took up arms against the
Well,
Nazis.
if she just wanted to go through it, like, it's so dumb, man. It's first of all, the Houthis. Let's be serious. Do you know who the Houthis have done more damage to? Like, who are the biggest victims of Houthi violence in the world? It's other Yemenis. Most of the time, the Houthis fight with the Yemeni government and dissenters within, and like fucking people who cross them. That's who the Houthis mostly fight with. They mostly fight with Arabs. Just like Hezbollah. Hezbollah does not mostly fight with Israelis. They mostly fought with Syrians. How fucking stupid is this person? He's actually insane. He's so dumb. I can totally, because you would just have to ask Hasan, yeah, like, okay, Houthis, who do they mostly kill? Who do they mostly fight with? They don't mostly fight with Israel. Like, what? Or he's saying what? Because they see Israel's actions and they get the Star of David planes bombing them. Again, I thought it was Saudis that were doing that. I thought it was Saudis, Emiratis, and the Yemeni government. But he's wrong about that as well. Fuck me.
Would you
he's
say
like he's flailing. It's like incoherent fucking flailing. This he's just getting mogged now. I'm sorry. Ethan doesn't even need to say anything. He just needs to say some really basic shit. Like he's kidnapping civilians. What, Anne Frank? What, the pacifist? It would be like if Anne Frank set up, like, overthrew the fucking government of a Jewish country and started stealing aid from other Jews and started sex trafficking fucking Jewish civilians and started forcibly conscripting refugees who were passing through this Jewish country. Like that's where you get the Anne Frank comparison. Fuck me.
If she was like, I want to kill Germans and hang them, yeah.
No, not Germans. Ethan's cucked out. It's not Germans. No, it's not Germans or Nazis. No, it's their own people. That's who the Houthis fuck with the most. They are all fucking better than anything else. They are Arab killers. That's what they are. Houthis, Hezbollah, Assad, the Axis, they nothing better than killing Arabs. That's what they do. They are better at killing Arabs than any other fucking exploit. They can't fight the United States for shit. They don't do a great job of fighting Saudi. They don't do a terrible job of fighting with Israel. They do a really good job of fighting with other Arabs, though. They're very good at that.
Would you say that Anne Frank is bad for that? Say Anne Frank is bad for that, Ethan.
For something that didn't happen?
Anne Frank would be bad if she took up arms against the violent Nazi occupation. Say it.
It wouldn't be the same for sure. It
wouldn't be the same.
Oh god, Ethan's he needs to hammer down on this. Like I get curious now because do people just not know these details? Because this isn't even Wikipedia knowledge. This is just like blurb knowledge. This is like, okay, Anne Frank fighting the people who are trying to genocide her for regardless of what she does. She can't white flag her way out of it. She had nothing. The Houthis, who are they fighting with? Before Israel, you got Saudi, Emirates, other Yemeni government. I don't get it. Do people just need to redo Holocaust education because no one was paying attention in high school? Like, you think that's what people need to do? Or we should, alongside Holocaust education, we should just compare it to current affairs just so people stop comparing it? I don't know.
She's famous for being a pacifist and seeing the good in people despite living through a Holocaust. You understand that? That's not what... Let me show you.
Also, Anne Frank was a child. She was like, what, 14, 15? So is Hasan like pro-child soldier now? I feel like Anne Frank, the best thing that Anne Frank could do was try to survive. That's it. I don't really know if she was going to like do herself much of a favor by taking a gun and like shooting at fully grown Nazi soldiers and tanks. I don't know if that would have really been helpful to her, unfortunately.
Do you think that if Anne Frank took up arms against the Nazi occupation,
Israel
you would
isn't
call her a
occupying
bad
Yemen
person?
anyway.
What?
Yeah, they're not.
Israel's not occupying Yemen.
Israel isn't. But for every single country in this region, American imperialism is all.
You say now it's Americans? I thought they hated Jews.
The Saudis, you said this. Why don't they say death to Saudi Arabia?
Hey, yeah. Jews? Oh, fuck it. Yes. Let's go. He figured out. He found his way. Let's go. Let's go.
Why is it
single country?
You know what would be?
Region?
Sorry. Do you know what? If we follow Hasan's worldview to its logical conclusion, the real question would be: would you condemn Luffy the Houthi if he came to Hasan's house and shoved his ass on a spike and killed him? Because Hasan's an American taxpayer. Hasan is paid for American bombs and American blockade, or American relations with Saudi to fuck up Yemen. Hasan's taxpayers' money is paying for American bombs to bomb Yemen right now. One of which might hit Luffy the Houthi. So what you'd really ask Hasan is like, would you condemn Luffy the Houthi for attacking you? But, or is it probably more ethical to point your grievances in a more direct, in a more clear direction? Like people who rose up in Europe, in Nazi-occupied Europe, Jews, they fought with Nazi soldiers. For the most part, they fought with Nazi soldiers. It was far less common for them to just go and find random fucking ethnic Germans, not knowing what their affiliation was with the Nazi regime, and just like murdering them for no gain. That was a bit less of a practice, and far less so did Jews just kind of get fucking like scream about Germany, but spend all the time fighting with each other. Like
American. Israel isn't. But for every single country in this region, American imperialism is all.
You say the
they
Saudis.
Known.
You said this. Why don't they say death to Saudi Arabia on their flag? Why is it Jews? Why is it damn the Jews?
They're directly fighting Saudi Arabia.
Oh, but
what
I thought,
are you
see the Star of David. Of
but
course
they fight with Israel,
Jews.
though. They
what about why does
at...
their flag say death to fucking Israel and damn the Jews?
Their flag says death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews.
Damn the
which
Jews,
I have
curse
said
upon
time
the
and
Jews.
time again is kind of gauche, not acceptable, not
That's
appropriate
nice.
by Western standards. But if you listen
Why
to
does it say Saudi
But
Arabia?
by dirty Arab standards, it's fucking boost. Yes, thank you, Hasan. Thank you. Well done.
clip on that too. Norm has a clip on that too. Do you want to see?
No, let me show you this because you've been going on and on.
Norm Finkelstein explain that?
No, I want to show you this. Okay, you've been talking and talking and talking and talking. Very good. Let's watch this.
Do you condemn the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, Ethan?
Gotta stop.
Do you condemn the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising?
I'm going to play this video.
The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
He says, ready for sacrifice. Maybe I read it.
Sacrifice and eager for martyrdom. Maybe he's talking about football. Here he is singing a song with the words, do you threaten us with what we are waiting for, son of a Jew? The meaning of Houthi is a title, and it's not something to fear, but for the Jews. They are very afraid of this title. The execution we will carry out on all...
It's funny. The only Jews that the Houthis have really been able to hurt are Yemeni Jews. That's the worst thing. The only Jews they've actually ever really been to inflict any damage on is just Jews in Yemen who have nothing to do with Israel. The last few Jews whose parents and grandparents didn't leave. And Hasan likes these people. Like the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, there were no German civilians, just combatants. I don't know if you're saying that they treated German civilians as combatants, but the people in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising literally were fighting with SS officers and German police who were trying to shove them on a train to gas them. Financial damage doesn't count. Sure, financial damage does count, but it doesn't count as much as persecuting your local population and jailing them and making them flee. It's hard to know what they would have done. That's actually not true, $5 hotel room. That's not true at all. For one, let me show you. Because we can listen to what leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising have said. Now, I'm cherry-picking this one because this person actually is quite critical of Israel. Most of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising leaders were Zionists. There's a kibbutz, I believe, in Israel that's named after, is it Mordecai? Like it's named after one of the main Warsaw Ghetto Uprising leader. This is Edelman, Mark Edelman. He's saying this in 2002, so Second Intifada. The last surviving leader of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising has called on Palestinians to halt their attacks on Israeli civilians and start talks with Israeli leaders. But his appeal, published last week as an open letter in Poland's leading newspaper, Gazeta Wyborcza, when I say that, has drawn criticism from some Jews because Edelman never used the word terrorism. He also appears to evoke comparisons between today's Palestinian gunmen and the outnumbered Warsaw Ghetto fighters who made a brave but futile fight against the Nazis in 1943. There's no need for such a comparison, Nina Fremer-Greenspan, who fought under Edelman in Warsaw, told the Israeli daily Haaretz. It pains me. I also think it's very problematic that he does not call them terrorists, she said. However, she did, back Edelman's call for negotiations. Edelman, 81, addressed his letter not to Palestinian politicians, but to all the commanders of Palestinian military, paramilitary, and guerrilla organizations, to all the soldiers in the Palestinian combatant organizations. My name is, so this is the guy who did compare his actions to, this is the one Warsaw Ghetto Uprising leader that we know that actually did compare Palestinians to himself. Now, my name is Mark Edelman. I am the former vice commander of the Jewish Fighting Organization. I am one of the leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. He went on, establishing his credentials both as a Jew and as a guerrilla fighter. To some observers, Edelman appeared to fault the Palestinians on their tactics rather than their goals or their ideals. He recalled how, in 1943, we fought for the life of Jewish society in Warsaw. We fought solely for life, not for territory, and not for national identity. Our weapons were never aimed at a defenseless civilian population. We did not kill women and children. Nonetheless, he said, to this day, urban guerrillas have never been victorious anywhere in the world, but neither have the armies against which they have fought ever won. The war you are fighting will also lead to nowhere. Once again, blood will be spilled needlessly, and people on both sides will lose their lives. Edelman obliquely criticized Palestinian use of suicide bombers, saying that the ghetto fighters never gambled with our lives. We never sent our soldiers to a certain death. After all, you only live once. A man must not take another's life. It is time for everyone to understand that. This is the one leader of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising who actually did empathize with the Palestinian cause and wasn't like a full-on Zionist. And this is what he's saying. So that's the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. That's what they believe about attacks on civilians. Ugh, okay? Not all violent resistance is the same. Believe it or not. The Mandela stuff is not wrong that I keep pushing, you fucking moron. The ANC never had a policy of targeting civilians. Never. Never, never, never! Never. They occasionally targeted soldiers and police officers. Not many. I believe in 15 years they killed about less than 100. But military targets, that is. They supported the PLO. Yes, they supported the PLO after Arafat had recognized Israel and renounced terrorism. Okay, hang on. Receipts. Receipts! Arafat, UN, because these Mandela speeches supporting the PLO very vocally, they come from generally 1990s, right? 1990, 91, 92, 93. We agree with that? Arafat in 1988, the PLO decided to renounce terrorism in order to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Oh, really? Mandela supporting the guys who renounced terrorism. Okay. Cope!
Zionists, with the lovely depiction of a man impaled through his asshole and out of his mouth with a pike, or how Hasan likes to say it, a pike for a cut. Okay, why would he retweet this article called Houthis use social media to boost global prominence?
Called Israel a terrorist state. $5. I don't know what you're like an American hawk. You just see the word terrorist and you go like just because you see the word terrorist written somewhere and you want to attach whatever meaning you want to it proves what? Look at Mandela's policy. Mandela supported Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. If someone said this in Hasan's chat, they would be called a fucking Zionist Nazi. As a movement, we recognize the legitimacy of Palestinian nationalism, just as we recognize the legitimacy of Zionism as Jewish nationalism. We insisted the right of the state of Israel to exist within secure borders, but with equal vigor support the Palestinian right to national self-determination. The legitimacy of Zionism is Jewish nationalism. That's the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state. Fuck you. Fucking hell.
It's in support. Israel falls. Okay. Wait for the new operation in Tel Aviv, the Jaffa drone, which no Israeli defense can stop. The ships we bombed and sank. I know the red arrow is supposed to be
no Israeli defense can stop this. Why would you gas people up like this? It's miserable.
No Israeli defense can stop. The ships we bombed and sank. I know the red arrow is supposed to be a cool military Hamas thing. This is a butt plug. Just saying.
To every Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. And let me state the obvious. Jew and Zionist is clearly interchangeable to this guy. Okay, but hating Jews doesn't make you a Houthi. Are you a soldier? Yes. Hey. That seems pretty definitive.
Why did he say yes to "Are you a soldier"?
Bro, he doesn't even fucking speak English. You're like, oh, he's a soldier. Wait, even if he
doesn't know yes and no in English?
Even if he is. I'm going to ask you a question very clearly and very deliberately.
Yeah. Warsaw Ghetto.
Anne Frank.
Just like Anne Frank.
If Anne Frank lived, if we had the internet during the time of the Holocaust and Anne Frank posted about this is what we're going to do to the Nazis, would your analysis of Anne Frank change even a little bit, even an iota?
Yes, of course it would, because she's famous for being a pacifist, not tweeting out death to all Zionists. She's famous for seeing the good in people, not fucking tweeting out that we want to nuke Israel. What do you mean?
That one, because I would not give a fuck. I would be loud and proud going, hey, that's what she said. That's what we're going to do to the Nazis. Fuck yeah, girl.
So after watching that compilation, you still...
That's an alpha. You shouldn't let Hasan get away with this. Like, it's not just that... If Anne Frank said, we're going to kill Nazis... That is not the same as the Houthis, who Israel is not trying to destroy Yemen. Like, Israel only attacks Yemen because the Houthis attack them. That's why Israel attacks the Houthis. But saying all Zionists, sorry, again, you have to go to the basic. Hasan thinks Zionism and Nazism are the same thing, which is just fucked. But I don't know.
Agree that he's just like Anne Frank.
Did you not hear what I asked you?
I'm just summarizing.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Anne Frank died before she could resist. But if she did, I would never hold that against her.
She was fucking killed in a concentration camp, you psychopath.
But if she
was exterminated with her whole fucking family. Her dad's the only one that survived and recovered her journal. Are you fucking mad?
Either, Ethan, right? Would you hold that against her? Would you hold that against her?
I wouldn't hold it against her, but she wouldn't be the same historical figure that said, despite my family.
The question is rather if, let's say the war ends, or even before the war ends, but if Anne Frank's objective was to bypass the fucking German military so that they could go into Germany and just find some civilians, not even figure out whether or not they're pro-Nazi and just kill them, then that would probably make her a slightly different figure, yeah. But
only being killed in concentration camp and everyone being murdered, I'm still a pacifist that sees the good in people. What the fuck what's so confusing about that? Not kill Zionists, not nuke Israel, not a pike through Zionist assholes.
I can't believe we're once again discussing the posts of a dude in Yemen.
You really like to do that.
19 fucking years old.
Well, you said he's not a Houthi. You mean you went on and on and on and on about how he's just some random fucking innocent kid that you platformed and glazed the fuck up, by the way. Which is, by the way, just terrible journalism. Like you have KFC in Yemen? Is that the fucking best question you have for someone who's apparently surviving a genocide in Yemen, who's been with the crew of kidnapped hostages, who has apparently partied with the captains? That wasn't even correct. You say, is there KFC in Yemen? Are you fucking kidding me? Just insane.
Here's some clips
but hold on, besides being wrong, it's insanely incompetent.
We're going clip for clip. Can you please play this? It's from my subreddit.
Sure. Give me a sec. Dan's got to pass it to me. Okay, after this, please, we got to move on to the
Why did Mandela endorse the PFLP in 2006? I don't know, probably because he just changed his mind on everything he believed about targeting civilians. Yeah, actually, Mandela, he would have probably supported Hamas right now. What are you trying to say? What the fuck was the PFLP doing in 2006? The PFLP were fucking irrelevant in 2006. You're turning me into Hasan. Stop trying to act like Mandela can be compared. I don't know why people do this. It's like, I'm talking about the bulk of ANC policy, right? I'm talking about their targeting procedures. I'm talking about what they did after they found out that too many civilians were dying. I think, with landmines, I think they placed landmines in 1985. They killed 22 people, and they're like, whoa, that's too much. Whoa, back the fuck up. And then they stopped using them 2 years later because they killed 21 people. And I'm looking at their policies and their practices, and you're like, oh, but they did a ceremony with the PFLP. Fuck off. You're such a retard. What a useless comparison. I'm talking about ANC policy, what they did, what they tried to avoid. The fact that they literally sent, how they dispatched fucking all the commanders out to the different units when too many civilians were dying in accidents or poor intel or anything else like that. And then civilian deaths were going too high. Their peak was at like 70 people died in 86, and then they got rid of their political leader of the military wing. Then they fucked off the then they got all the commanders to go all the way around the different units and got them to like reaffirm ANC policy to stop them doing that. And then the year after, the death rates just plummet. It worked. And you're trying to lump these guys in with Palestinian militant groups who target civilians. I don't know why. Why do you do that? Why? Of course, they went after civilians in the 80s. They didn't target. They didn't have a policy of targeting civilians. No, they didn't. You fucking liar. It was never their policy to target civilians. Never. Let's have a look. One of us has read the Truth and Reconciliation Commission on this, and one of us hasn't. Okay. How do people do this? Like, civilians died, but civilians died also targeted civilians. These are not the same thing. They are not the same thing. Early signs that the ANC was concerned about the nature of certain attacks made by operatives emerged in late 1987. Late that year, ANC President Oliver Tambo called in all members of MHQ and expressed his concern at the number of unnecessary civilian casualties in certain attacks, particularly those involving the use of anti-tank landmines. The landmine campaign was then suspended. Oh, really? Because they're trying to avoid killing civilians. Tambo also tasked MHQ with ensuring that all operatives fully understood ANC policy in respect of legitimate targets. Failure to comply with these orders would be considered a violation of policy, and action would be taken against offenders. Their policy was not, it's a reaffirming of policy. It's not changing policy. The landmines were anti-tank. They were intended to hit soldiers. The problem is that they didn't hit soldiers, and then they stopped using them. Because 21 out of the 22 people who were killed were not soldiers. And then they were like, okay, that's not really doing what it's supposed to. So let's stop. You're just inventing things on the spot now. Now you're saying, oh, actually, they did target civilians in 85, but then they stopped. No, they didn't. They reaffirmed their policy. Because if you go through this, they literally have to talk about affirming policy, about how policy wasn't understood. And they explain why. Why was bombing a shopping mall targeting civilians? You haven't read the commission report. I don't know why you're asking that question. If you read this report, you would know the answer to that question. I don't know why you're doing that. The ANC was a leadership in exile. They were in exile, which meant it was very difficult to discipline their soldiers and to communicate policy effectively. So there were times when people took part in revenge killings, where people targeted civilians because of poor intel, where people just went rogue, because that happens in every fucking military. There are all these reasons, and when it happened and when it got too far for them, 70 deaths in a year was too far for them, by the way. And when that happened, they did a fucking clamp down. They reined it in. So I don't know. I don't know why you're so desperate to stain the name of Nelson Mandela and the ANC to try and pretend that it was their policy to target civilians. It never was. They talk about it here as well. You're upset that people weren't punished, but they had a disciplinary procedure, and they explain that as well. So they talk about how people were not censored or punished for improper action or unauthorized operations. However, they talk about how it was more of a concept of re-education. So they assert maintaining discipline in guerrilla and conventional armed forces is fundamentally different. In the case of a guerrilla force, discipline flows from a thorough understanding of political objectives or a struggle, not from the threats of court-martial or punishment, because they didn't have the institutions. They didn't have the institutions available to do this. Didn't Mandela appoint people in the TRC? Yes, and they used ANC inquiries that took place before the end of apartheid, before the TRC. Yeah, you don't know anything. Sorry, you're just making... Why am I arguing with someone who's just making stuff up as they go along because they're desperate to defend fucking Hamas? Go away.
But thing.
Yeah. Every single victim of Israeli or American violence has to be a pacifist.
Okay, do you want me to watch this? I mean, what the fuck, bro? It's 4 minutes, so I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I'll watch a minute or 2 minutes. Okay?
طبعا جاتني نسمح لهم ولا لا ولا طبعا طبيعي يعني احنا اليمنيين نمد ايدينا للسلام يعني اليمن مسموحه لاي شخص يجي يعيش فيها.
This is like shot by a fucking propagandist. What are you talking about? Like, he's all fucking dolled up. He's got makeup on. The lighting is
We're gonna
perfect.
impale the Zionists on spikes. Fuck them. Oh no, this looks bad. Let's do a video with some piano in the background. And
Yeah, he's like, guys, please, we love the Jews. Give me a break. Our problem is not with the
Feeling
Jews,
like a
guys.
big man, buddy, dunking on a fucking 19-year-old living in Yemen. You pick and choose what you think. You pick and choose what you think is appropriate to show.
Why don't we just look at how the Houthis treat Jews in Yemen?
About all this shit I show.
They're hard. The Houthis are harder on Jews in Yemen than they are on Israeli Jews.
Okay. Which do you think he believes, this or that?
I think he believes both.
Oh.
This is not.
He both believes the Jews are our friends and also we need to murder them all.
The problem is,
he believes that Jews are our friends and we need to murder them all. Is that correct?
The problem is you conflate. No,
he said Jews. He in the tweet said this is what we're going to do to Jews.
From a Western perspective, for them, when they talk about Israel, they sometimes reflect
and
it
that's
as
the Jews' fault, right?
So why do they persecute Yemeni Jews then, Hasan? Why? Or does he think that's fake as well?
Listen to me. Because in that interview that I conducted with him, I asked him about how he felt about Jews, anti-Zionist Jews specifically.
I remember.
And he said he loves them.
That is such a lie. You're such a liar.
You don't know this person,
I
Ethan.
watched it. That's not what he said, though.
He has no reason
He said
to
if they support Palestine, then I like them.
He's a propagandist. Hasan said he was media trained. He has no reason to lie. Fuck off.
He could be dead by
You're
now.
lying. You're just lying. You're lying about what he said. You're lying. I've seen that interview. You're lying. He didn't say that. He said if they support Palestine, then that's good. What? That's what he said. It's a fucking materially way different than I love Jews. What the fuck you said?
No, you didn't hear you just repeated what
Go
I
ahead.
said.
What'd you say?
I said love, but I think he didn't. I guess he didn't say love.
What did he say? Hold on
a second.
What did you say he said?
I said that I don't care what anyone's background is. I love them. Jew, Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. If you are against Israel, I love them. That's what I said. He has no problem with Jews who are pro-Palestine.
That's nowhere close to what you said.
Dude.
Well, you realize you were wrong. You got caught in a lie, so you're revising. It's fine. All right, let's move on to the Nakba thing.
Dude, I don't care.
We got to move on, bro.
Ethan, listen to my words very carefully. If he had told me, okay, I hate all Jews unconditionally. I am an anti-Semitic.
That's what you need to hear. That's what you need to hear.
Person.
He did tweet stuff like that.
The conversation would go very differently. But even then, I probably wouldn't be as vicious as you assume I would. He literally said that on social media or you want me to be. Because I understand the material conditions and what plays a role in people's recognition of the world.
Nobody needs to fear but Jews, he said. I'm going to shove my gun and kill Jews.
What? No, he didn't say that.
I'll play it again. You want me to play it again?
Oh, God. Okay, dude. You just play the fucking clip then. God damn it. Just play the clip. He said Zionist, but play the fucking clip, Ethan.
Yeah. I'll play it.
Play the clip I sent you without fucking complaining. No, he's too dolled up.
Wait, you want me to watch your clip? I thought, no, we're going to watch my clip.
No, play the fucking clip I sent you.
By the way, is this, I don't know if this is, I don't know if this music's claimed, by the way. We can. It
doesn't,
it does matter, unfortunately.
It's
you're on Twitch where
claimed.
Stealing content is fucking regular, but on YouTube, there's standards. Yeah.
Yeah. God forbid, someone might copy strike you. And then their lawyers might demand erroneous,
which you admitted is sometimes warranted. Where's the link
Mr. Fair Use? Mr. Fair Use.
Yeah, do you know what fair use is? You fucking moron. It's using it fairly. There's a big difference between.
No, I know. Fair use is when you get mad at Redditors criticizing you, so you fucking get.
Of course,
your
I care about stealing paywalled content, but okay.
About my monetization status.
Sue them. And make demands about how they have to
fair use,
release information about their about their allegiance.
Let me play this for a minute and then we'll move on.
All right, play
it. This is the most pathetic terrorist propaganda bullshit I have ever seen, and the fact that you actually think this is credible is so hilarious to me.
Dude,
wow. Let's keep it going.
Man,
no, I love this. This is great. Let him.
All right, just keep playing it. Keep playing it.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm trying.
I thought he didn't speak English. Where are all these English tweets? Why has he got these? Why does he have this tweets in perfect if he doesn't speak any English? What the fuck?
I don't know where the audio went. Oh, why was it? Sorry, hold on. We're having.
I pulled it back up.
Taylor Lorenz tweeted, "What's so crazy is that we tried to nab an interview with Rashad, the Yemeni teen who went viral for WAPO before Hasan the Hun got the scoop. Ethan continues to chastise Hasan for legitimate journalism and an interview that half the MSM was chasing."
Well, first of all, Taylor Lorenz is a fucking hack loser who's obsessed with you. Okay? Of course she would say that. She, by the way,
True.
What was legitimate? Name one question you asked him that represents legitimate journalism.
Okay.
One question.
Great question. What do you feel about anti-Zionist Jews leading many of the anti-Israel protests in the United States of America?
That's your most important journalistic question, which he basically said they're
No,
cool.
you asked me one. I gave you one.
I don't think that. I mean, I find that to be insignificant, especially considering his answer. No follow-up questions. Why don't you ask him why don't you ask a follow-up question like,
Ethan,
do you not care if they're Zionist Jews? That they're Israeli Jews that support you?
I don't give a fuck if he cares if there's Zionist Jews or not.
What about why? Do you think? What was the
about?
hard-hitting part about asking if he likes One Piece? Was that hard-hitting journalism?
No, it was called humanizing.
It was called cringe as fuck, glazing, pathetic.
Yeah, because you don't like when a fucking brown person gets a little bit of airspace.
Is that
and
right?
They look like a human being.
So you're resorting to calling me racist now. By the way, this dude's white as fuck. What are you talking about?
Ethan.
This dude's whiter than I am. What the fuck are you talking about,
let's get back to
dipshit?
the IDF.
Hold on, you
So
accuse
said
me of
the
being
IDF
racist. Are you talking about this guy?
Terrorist organization.
Are you talking about
and
this
your
guy?
wife is a part of the IDF. Do
me a
you think
break,
it's
dude.
appropriate to call your wife a terrorist?
I think you do. No, I don't.
You don't think it's appropriate?
No.
Okay. You have stated time and time again that you believe, to show how pro-Palestine you are, that you believe settlers are valid military targets.
Right.
Who do you think is protecting the settlers who you claim
The
are
IDF
valid
is
military
protecting them, and
targets?
it's fucking insane.
In the
Yeah,
process,
it's horrible.
in the process
Was
of
my
their
wife out there
pogroms that they're
protecting?
doing.
Sorry, was Hila out there protecting settlers?
No, she was doing a night raid, as a matter of fact, and I didn't know any of this until recently. For the record,
She
until
was
a couple months ago.
Yeah, you're gonna do
She was
the
out there
Raider of
doing
Ramallah
night
snark
raid.
bullshit.
Do
Go
you
on.
think-
Yeah, your community doesn't harass anyone. She was 18 years old. She went on a ride along to Ramallah for some kind of fucking mission. She stayed in the car, and then they went back, and that's all that happened. She's
She
18 years
described
old, bro.
the
She's a
process
secretary.
of taking someone hostage. You called him it, by the way. That person was a Palestinian living in his own fucking home. And your wife
Can they not
went
commit
on
crimes?
a raid to Ramallah, which you have called a terror city.
Yeah, that was an old clip. I don't think Ramallah's a
Is your
terror
wife
city.
a valid military target in that process? Because you've said
How do you know, Hasan? Like, you have no idea who this person. I thought, didn't Hila say that there was like fucking gunfight? Okay. Just because they're in Ramallah. When did this happen? Does he have does he know the operational details? Again,
W. Halot's husband. But can we stop with the professor smears? Highly problematic. If anything, Hasan is turning the vile stereotype of the vapid hottie who gets everything handed to them on its head.
thanks for the 10 euros.
said that settlers are valid.
15 years ago, 2010-ish. He wouldn't know because he was yapping about the fucking West Bank raids in August, September. And just talking about indiscriminate violence, killing civilians, etc. Even though Hamas were literally saying, yeah, like pretty much everyone who's died here are our guys or Islamic Jihad. It's like, yeah, they don't give a fuck.
Military targets. Do you think your wife is a valid military target? Do you think your
She's
wife
not
is
a West Bank
terrorist, Ethan?
settler. She's not a West Bank settler.
But she's in the
Bad
West Bank.
Empanada
Where's
thinks she
Ramallah,
is.
Ethan?
Bad Empanada thinks she's valid. Your friends over at Second Thought think that she's a valid target.
You
Do
think
you?
she's a valid military?
Settlers are not the same as soldiers in the West Bank. Like, fuck. At the end of the day, even if like the problem with the West Bank is that it's Israeli occupied territory, and by international law, it stays occupied until there's a peace deal. Unfortunately, 2 peace deals in the last 25 years were rejected by Palestinian leaders, and they never counteroffered. So we have no fucking idea what they would have accepted in order for that occupation to end. That means that so long as the occupation exists, IDF soldiers, even if they don't like settlers and live in Israel proper, will occasionally have to protect Israeli dumbfuck civilians who go into the West Bank and decide to fuck around. Doesn't make them like bad people. Ugh. They didn't even counter. Yep, there's no Arafat counteroffer from Camp David. No. They replied to the Clinton parameters with a saying that they accepted them, but also gave a very vague indecipherable set of reservations. But there's never been a final settlement where they've said, this is what we accept on borders. We'll accept this on refugees. We'll accept this on Jerusalem. Yeah, they've never done that.
Do you think she's a valid military target? Do you think she's a valid military target?
I do not, as a matter of fact. I don't. Okay.
Right. Can we please move on to this the Nakba thing?
Listen to me.
Hasan, bro, you're making this unwatchable.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Okay?
We got to move on.
How does this make sense in your mind? The
thing I'm curious about is people are saying 2006-5. I'm very curious about whether or not this was during the Second Intifada. I don't know.
Israel is doing genocide. She has participated in the kidnapping of a Palestinian in the West Bank.
You don't know who was kidnapped and for what reason.
We don't say you hate the settlers.
Well, we don't know who was.
First of all, the settlers, Ethan. Your wife did.
Kidnapped. They arrested some.
Does he think militants in the West Bank only ever fight settlers? It's so stupid. Especially if this is mid-2000s. I don't know though.
But we don't know what happened or what they did. What if he fucking stabbed civilians? Doesn't that happen?
The process in which how people are arrested in the West Bank, Ethan?
Do Palestinian terrorists never stab and blow up civilians?
They're placed under military detention. They are not actually placed. They do not go through a civil court process.
Ever
of course they don't, because they're not fucking citizens. By the way, if Hasan wants to complain about this, but pretend that he cares about international law, is it Fourth Geneva Convention, Article 47? Is that right? That's not the fourth one. Hang on. What's the Geneva Convention on internment? Article 78. That's what it is. Article 78. Fourth Geneva Convention, Article 78. People don't remember that this is like, again, you can argue with the way that they enforce it, and you should, because there are like flaws in the way that Israel does it. Like, they do breach the law, at least for some of them. If the occupying power considers it necessary for imperative reasons of security to take safety measures concerning protected persons, it may at most subject them to assigned residence or to internment. Internment is administrative detention. They also even qualify, I think there's like an additional part here where it's about like, here. This procedure shall include the right of appeal for parties concerned. Appeals should be decided with the least possible delay. In the event of the decision being upheld, it shall be subjected to periodical review, if possible, every 6 months by a competent body set up by the paid powers. So the action of administrative detention is not inherently illegal. The lack of appeals, I think, that is, but the 6-month review, Israel does that. Israel does a 6-month review for administrative detention. So they break one part of this, not the rest. Like, administrative detention is not inherently like illegal in the Geneva Conventions.
Violence on civilians that would warrant them being arrested?
They are not in the West Bank.
You don't know anything about this person or this raid.
In Ramallah, in Palestinian territory, your wife was an illegal occupier of a terrorist.
So again, when he's using this language, illegal occupier, he's not giving a fuck about the law. Like, sorry, by international law, Resolution 242, if they are going to give up the West Bank, it has to be in exchange for safe and secure boundaries that are recognized by both sides. Until that happens, the occupation stays, and it does mean that the IDF does have a legal right to enforce, to take military action to protect their civilians, even if their civilians are settling in the West Bank. Yes, they are allowed to do that. But again, a terrorist in Ramallah is not necessarily just like focusing on settlers. West Bank terrorists also attack Israel proper. It just happened last year. They tried to do a suicide bombing in Israel proper from the West Bank.
Organization, also known as the Israeli Occupying Force, Ethan. Now, I know...
Why is he using like legal terminology but then calling it the IOF? Like, he's trying to sound so fucking academic and professional, but he's just using like... It's like fucking... It's just like fan fiction. It's just like alternative... Yeah, it's just like, it's just alternative fucking fanfic. Weird.
That's not how it's known, but
in the Israeli occupying force, as a matter of fact. I've relied on breaking the
silence. By the way, her name is Hila. I don't know if you keep doing your wife. Why do you do that? Why do you keep referring to her as my wife? It's bizarre.
Okay, Hila, whatever, who cares?
It just belies some really bizarre
random
thing.
shit.
It's not random at all. It says a lot.
Listen to my words.
Bro,
Listen to my words.
It's so
I have no
exhausting.
issue with someone as long as they have recognized their mistakes, as long as they recognize that that was wrong. What I take issue with is consistently defending Israel. You have also participated in the defense of Israel. It makes no sense. You're inconsistent. You say it's a genocide, but people can't resist militarily. You say it's a genocide, but all of the people who are outspoken
He opposes targeting civilians, Hasan. You don't. That's the difference.
are vile anti-Semites.
Hila was doing
Who is supposed to be able to resist against this genocide?
Hold the phone.
Do you actually think it's a genocide?
Hila was doing mandatory military service. What should she have done?
Conscientious objector. Go to jail.
There's numerous options. One, religious exemption. Two, refusing to serve. But even then,
can you do that? Can you just be like, oh yeah, fuck, I turned 18. Shit. Can I? I'm a Haradim. I'll throw rocks at you if you come into my neighborhood on Shabbat. I put the hat on. Give me that. Quick, give me a hat. Give me the giant spellcaster hat.
I don't have a problem with her being socially conditioned into thinking that this is appropriate. I have a problem with what she's saying now. I have a problem with how she reflects on that and doesn't realize that that was an unjustifiable thing to do.
Okay, well, listen, you can talk to her,
kidnapped.
debate about it. I don't know what you're even referring to. Okay.
What?
I don't even know what the fuck you're referring to. You're just calling my wife a terrorist. Like, give me a break, dude.
No.
She did mandatory.
She has talked
Let me
on
ask
your
you a question.
podcast.
Hassan,
she's talked
please,
on your
you gotta
podcast
let me
about
talk.
how she went on a raid.
You have
she
to
was
let me
bored. She had
talk.
a
The fact
secretary
that you're
job.
just
It's
talking
mandatory
over me
conscription.
and
It was an
being
adventure
louder
for
does
her.
not mean you're right. I promise.
What?
Being louder and talking more does not mean you're right. Okay, it's good to listen to what I have to say. She's part of mandatory conscription.
Did Hila not volunteer? Did Hila not volunteer to go to the West Bank on a raid because she was bored? In Ramallah.
Yeah, she's 18. It's understandable. We don't know what that guy did, though. We don't know what the raid was for.
He could have been a vicious terrorist monster.
He could have been a terrorist. You fucking retard. Yeah. What do you think happens in the West Bank, bro? What do you think? Like, this is him doing the thing again. It's like, apparently, if you think that the IDF sometimes fights with terrorists in the West Bank, that must be. Oh God.
If he killed people, of course. If he killed people, of course he would be worthy of being arrested.
Ethan, is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay. So why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe getting a terrorist that killed civilians. She sat in a car.
It's not complicated.
She sat in a car and didn't even leave it and never did it again.
Your wife participated in an illegal raid according to...
It's not again, he's just lying. Hasan doesn't know anything about international law. He has never looked up whether or not, like, the way that occupation law works. He's never looked it up. He doesn't know anything.
International human rights. That is the reality. Now,
are you upset if this person killed, like, a child? Would you be upset if this person they arrested, like, stabbed people? Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
If she were to talk about...
Okay, fine, my wife's a terrorist, bro. What the fuck? It's so boring.
No, stop. Listen to my words.
No,
listen to my words. Allow me to educate you as I just invent international law on the spot. Nice one.
Fucked up that is, as many former IDF vets have on breaking the silence. If she talked about the night raid that she participated in the same way that
just like Frogan says, I don't hate only the ones that regret it.
Talk about, I would have no issue with her.
Do you hope she gets PTSD
know why? Because
too?
I understand people can change.
I don't condone the raid, but I mean, see, neither of us have any information about like what actually happened. You know what I mean?
There is no. You don't understand. She is illegally there.
Okay.
She is not supposed to be there. It does not matter. Her and her entire brigade was not supposed to be there.
I don't think she knew what they were doing.
And as a matter of fact,
I don't think she knew what they were doing or where they were going.
What she participated.
Sorry, I need to know. Did you say Hila turned 18 in 2005? So is he saying this just at the tail end of the Second Intifada? And Hasan's saying the IDF should have just unilaterally withdrawn from the West Bank and just what? If you did that, you'd have got Gaza. The raid was like the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Ironically, Jews defending themselves from anti-Semitic terrorists. Yeah. Yeah, fuck it. Let's just, if we're doing just like completely overstretched Nazi comparisons, why not? Yeah. Hila's actually like Anne Frank because she just stayed in the van, didn't do anything. Which is kind of like Anne Frank hiding in the basement or the attic. Bro, while other people defend her from anti-Semitism. Shit.
I don't think she knew where they were going or what they were doing.
I could be a brilliant Zionist Hasan. I could just do like just be like Hasan, but just for Israel instead. It would just be comparisons like that all fucking day.
Participated in.
Okay, she's a terrorist, bro.
Raid.
Please, we got to move on. This is
the
like
reason why. The reason why the Israeli occupying force. Participates in these night raids in the West Bank.
You're making this unwatchable.
Is to create a constant feeling of terror.
Hasan, talking more does not.
Why is he? He's so stupid. He doesn't know. Oh God. Okay.
Make you right. Okay. You got to understand
the reason why the Israeli occupying force
You're repeating yourself.
Participates in night raids.
The reason why the Israeli occupying Nazi terror Wehrmacht force under illegal international law, the West, like he's just making shit up, is to deliberately enact a policy of terror upon the defenseless civilian population. And they're like, oh yeah, maybe. How do you know they weren't attacking like a terrorist who was maybe trying to attack, like plan an attack into Israel proper? Oh, what? So they're like a savage? Like that's the absurd thing to say. God.
Is to create a constant sense of terror.
We don't condone it. She was 19. She was doing military conscription. She didn't know where they were going.
Listen
or what
to
they
my
were doing.
words.
Okay.
Listen to
he
me.
actually thinks he's so fucking informed. It's just.
I'm listening, but you just keep repeating yourself. This is what you do.
The reason why
you gotta move on.
I want to have the reason why I know that. Do you want to know why I know that?
Do you want this to be unwatchable? Is that what you want?
What?
Do you want this to be unwatchable?
The reason why I know that, Ethan,
I'm take that as a yes.
Breaking the silence veterans who have come out and spoken out against this practice. That's why I know that.
Hasan.
Because ex-soldiers that you agree with said what you wanted to hear. Okay. I can just like fucking ask. Hang on.
You say that Hila could have gone to jail and done a conscientious objection instead of joining the army. Why do you pay taxes? Why do you pay taxes to the United States government?
This is your big argument, Ethan?
Answer the question.
That I pay taxes and I'm morally culpable? I know. That's why I try to fucking
why don't
fight
you go
against
to jail?
This goddamn government doing
why
this
don't you
shit
stand
every
up for
day.
your? Hold on. Why don't you stand up for your principles and go to jail for it?
Because it would not actually stop. Okay, it would not actually stop.
Would it stop if Hila went to jail? She didn't even fire a shot.
The reason why I'm saying
what wouldn't stop?
I don't take issue with Hila's fucking actions then, as long as, just like you said, she was just 19 years old. I take issue with the fact that she still defends it on principle.
What does she
says
say?
The Israeli occupying force is not a terror organization. You have a disagreement with him.
Well, I think I think I can see it from her perspective too, which is like, the problem with you is that everything's black and white.
You can't see it from Rashad Al-Haddad's perspective.
Yeah,
and
he's a fucking terrorist who says he wants to kill Jews.
Rashad Al-Haddad's perspective is that he's apparently lived under a Saudi genocide, also committed by the United Arab Emirates and also by the Yemeni government and by the United States, but he's like angry at Jews and Israel, and more so than against the Saudis, and that he supports a movement that has done more damage to the lives of Yemeni Jews than they ever will to Israeli Jews. Yeah, that's probably a good reason to hate him. Fuck. Or to at least dislike him strongly.
That you said, like Anne Frank.
That's why you can fucking constantly claim that he is a terrorist.
Oh my God, bro! Please, I want this to be watchable. Okay, let's move on, please. Thank you. You made your point. You made your point. Okay.